Hey now, welcome back everyone. For those who are new, my name is Rudy, and we are growing in sunny Southern California in Zone 9B. However, today's video we are doing a full indoor seed to harvest video, and in this season we are using Master Kush cultivar from Dutch Passion Seeds. Now this is my first time using this breeder, however there are a ton of positive reviews. Now as I mentioned, this is a full seed to harvest video, so I am documenting everything from start to finish. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and let's start the video. What have I got? As mentioned, we're growing Master Kush from Dutch Passion Seed Company. We have two seeds that we're gonna soak overnight in distilled water. Now I prefer starting seeds this way rather than that paper towel method.
That's why Tally says, don't forget to bring a towel. Okay.
What have I got? We got our 2 pots with soil. And I put it in this container because I'm going to be adding some water to the bottom. Now basically what this is going to do is allow for the soil to absorb as much water as possible. And you don't got to fill it up all the way or anything like that. It's about 1 inch, maybe 2 inches. I'll probably add a little more. I like to add at least about 2 inches of water. That's good. I'm just gonna let that sit for about 10-15 minutes. This is also how I water my plants when they're in pots like this, at this stage anyways, since it's a much more effective way to water your plants. And what this does is the soil absorbs the water, and the difference between bottom watering and top watering is this forces your roots to search down and go deeper into the soil and search for that water. Because eventually, once these pots are not sitting in this water, they will start to dry out eventually. You know, depending on how big your pot is and what type of medium you're using, will all be dependent on how often you'll need to water or how often the soil will dry. So by doing it this way, to start off before the seeds are even put in the soil, this just gives it an overall good saturation. And I'm also going to be lightly misting the tops as well. But first, let's do a quick little time lapse and let this sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. Alrighty, so it's been about 15 minutes, so it's time to plant the seeds.
We are planting the seeds of a new dawn.
So now the rule of thumb is to plant the seed 2 times deeper than the seed is wide. Or in other words, 2 times deeper than the diameter of the seed. Now I know that might be confusing, but here's an example. So you can see we have 2 seeds here. Literally, if you put those 2 seeds together, that's how deep you would want to plant your seed. So that is about the tip of the Sharpie here. And that's normally how deep I like to make the holes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make that little divot in here. And just like that. So now I'm just gonna fish these out without trying not to spill them. I'll just grab one. I wouldn't worry too much about the angle or anything like that. Just drop it in, and however it lands, it lands. But in reality, if this was out in nature and growing on its own, it would literally just fall where it falls and it would plant itself. So that's one. And we're just gonna pinch that just like that. There you go, that's one. And let's try and fish out the other. I'm trying to do this holding my camera and one-handed. Alrighty, here we go. It doesn't, again, I just grabbed it. Doesn't really matter which way. And we're just gonna drop that right in there. Come on, let go. Let go. It doesn't want to go. Ah, missed it. So I'm just gonna flick that right in there. There it goes. Landed, and we're just gonna give it a little pinch and a tap. There we go. Move these out of this water. Put these now in this empty pot. And I'm only using this pot because you can see the soil is saturated and it's still leaking out. This is a reason why you want holes in the bottom of your pot. If not, there would be no way for all this excess water to escape, and it would just make your soil completely soggy and potentially drown your seedling. This soil will naturally dry out eventually, so that's why it is now in this pot with no water. And just give this a few shakes and right in there. And it'll do as much leaking as it needs. But in the meantime, you can still see that the surface of the soil is quite dry. However, I want to say till about right here, I'm sure that that soil will be nice and soaked from there down. Our seed is just about in that zone where the soil is still dry. So I want to completely saturate it. That way it's fully wet. So now I got my spray bottle. Now you don't want a stream like a water gun stream. You want it to be kind of wide. And just give it a spritz. And the reason, again, I do this is to fully saturate it, but to have it on this more of a mist style is so that you don't dislodge the seed. If I were to have it like a squirt gun and squirt directly into the center where we planted our seed, it could potentially move it around and maybe push it more up to the surface where it doesn't sprout properly. So just a small light mist on top. And that is it. That is all we need. We're just gonna let that sit, and that is it for now.
What have I got?
All right, guys. So today is the third day since we planted the seeds, and as you can see, we got some germination. You could definitely see that the seed shell is stuck. Here's the seed shell. Kind of looks like Pac-Man is slowly evolving. In green, you can see the stem along with the cotyledons. The cotyledons are the names of the first leaves. Now at this point, you need to be very careful. I've decapitated my seedlings before trying to remove a stuck seed shell. If you want to play it safe, you can spritz it with water and wait 24 to 48 hours for the seed shell to soften. You can also try using saliva to help loosen the shell.
You gotta give him that huck too and spit on that thing, you get me?
But I wouldn't wait no more than 48 hours from this point for the seed to come off. I too have left seed shells on the seedlings for too long and they end up stunting. We're just gonna gently peel this back while holding the base of the stem and the leaves. You're just gonna pull the seedling shell off just like that. Now hopefully you saw that. But now you can clearly see that the shell is removed. Now this one, and it looks like this one came off a lot easier. There you go. Just pop those two right off. They were coming off anyways. Cotyledons are still stuck in that membrane, the little inner part of the shell. You can clearly see the two shell casings there on the side. However, it's still not opening up because of that little membrane part. Alright, so you can see I've kind of already started to peel it off. There you go. So there's this little membrane here that was kind of keeping the seedling from opening up. This is part of the inner shell. So if that ever happens, all you need to do is lightly start to peel it off with your nail while trying to use two hands, hold the base of the seedling again, and then just use your finger to lightly peel it off. And it will eventually peel off. Again, if there is too much resistance, give it another day or two, either add water, spit on it, that will loosen it up and you'll be able to peel it off. As of right now, when it comes to the tracking of your plant, seedlings can now photosynthesize. I will consider this day 1. I'll go ahead and add that to my notes. And at this point as well, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug the heat mat, which is no longer needed at this point. The whole purpose of the heat mat is to allow for better germination, or to help with germination. Now that they're germinated, I went ahead and unplugged it.
What have I got?
All right, guys, so today is day 3 of sprouting. I went ahead and moved them into their final environment in this tent. cleaned up everything and got it ready for this new run. So we have the small heater in the back along with the humidifier. And then we got the two Inkbird controllers. One is for the temp, one is for the humidity. And now these two sensors here is what actually controls the heater and the humidity, obviously. So I set the parameters with the controller that's here at the top. And the perfect ranges that I try and keep it at is currently for the seedling stage, I want to keep it at a 70% humidity range. Now in the seedling stage, the seedling is going to need a lot more humidity because it doesn't have an established root system just yet. So the surrounding area, if it is humid, it allows for the seedling and the leaves that it has to be able to absorb whatever extra water that it needs, along with what water that you give it. Once a week or two passes, I'm going to go ahead and dial down that humidity, because at that point the roots will start to be much more established, and I'm trying to keep the temperature right around 84. So those are my target ranges just for the seedling stage. Again, temperature, never going to touch it throughout the entire grow, but the humidity I will start to dial back. And currently you can see they're soaking up the water that they need. They were a little thirsty, and I just put them on top of this little pot here just to keep them a little closer to the light. Now for every light manufacturer, they should provide you some type of instructions on how to use it. Specifically for my lights, it tells me exactly the distance that I need to keep my lights at. Oh yeah, one other thing I want to mention is right when it emerges, these two leaves here, you can see they are much different than those two leaves there. The reason being is that these two here that look different are cotyledons. Now these are the first leaves, and they're actually technically part of the seed shell. So if you can imagine that this was wrapped up into a seed, literally this would be the walls of the seed, and it pops open once the seed shell actually pops off. So they are technically part of the seed itself, but these two here are the first true leaves. And same thing for this one as well. So that is the current update for now, so I'll catch you guys later.
What have I got?
Alright guys, we're back. Today is day 13. Plants are looking much bigger since we last left off. One thing I want to mention is we have some extra plants growing here at the bottom. When I first started growing, I honestly didn't know what to expect. And when I first started, these plants here, I always assumed that it was part of the original plant. If you have multiple sprouts like this is more than likely because your soil contains seeds. If you plant one seed, this one stalk or stem here is that one seed. The rest are from my compost. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pick these off just like that. I'm just gonna use some pruners so I don't disturb the roots. Just clip them. And same thing for this one. This one also has a little sprout there. I'm just gonna clip that as well. Now they are definitely in need of a drink. And since we're about a day shy for 2 weeks, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give some seaweed extract. And there's those 2 tablespoons. So we filled up about maybe an inch or 2 from the bottom. Just gonna let that do a good soak. We still got a whole lot extra, so we're just gonna put those in my other seedlings here. And after about, I always say recommend between 15 minutes to like half hour. Now again, this is just a recommendation. There have been plenty of times where I forgot, where I actually was bottom watering my other seedlings and left them for more than 24 hours sitting in that water. Now it isn't the best, but it will not kill them. But there's always that disclaimer because every plant works a little bit differently. So again, just 15 minutes to 30 minutes, bottom watering for your seedlings is the, best amount of time for that absorption.
What have I got?
Alrighty guys, so today is day 20. We have an issue. So these leaves kind of look bruised and yellow. This definitely looks like overwatering. Definitely mistake on my part. I have been bottom watering quite often, so I have let them dry out. I seen this happening, I want to say about a week ago. Just reporting it now, but I did taper off on the watering, and right now the pots are really light, so I'm gonna go ahead and water. Just checking for some roots, which there might be a couple roots here and there. You see that one in that hole, but I'm gonna give them one last watering in here. I should have the soil mix set up and ready for them to go this weekend. So if you have leaves that look similar to this, bruised and yellow, it's more than likely overwatering. Again, I mean, we all make mistakes. We can all correct it. I would be concerned if the entire plant looked exactly like these bruised leaves here. So as of right now, I'm going to do another bottom watering. This time, I'm not going to let it sit. I'm only going to do it for 10 to 15 minutes and then dump out the rest of the water.
What have I got?
Alrighty guys, today is day 26. And here are the plants. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little worried. The outer leaves I'm gonna clip off, but some of the green leaves, you can see the tips there, are browning. Same thing for this one. I'm gonna be moving these to their final pots. Definitely want to get them out of this, and hopefully this will get them to bounce back. I got the soil mix already in here. We're gonna be transplanting them into these pots. Going to use this myco's product, not a sponsor, which is a mycorrhizal inoculant. This fungi helps with transplanting by forming a symbiotic relationship with the plant and the soil life. And just going to sprinkle the inoculant directly onto the roots, making sure that any excess falls into the planting hole. There they are, planted in. And this one only had two of those outer leaves kind of crusty because of that overwatering. I definitely assume that it's overwatering. That's what it looks like. This one here had a lot more leaves that were damaged. But either way, I'm clipped them off. I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna go ahead and water. And I'm definitely gonna be watering these in really good because the soil to be rehydrated. These are 3-gallon bags, and I'm gonna be giving about a half gallon of water. And any of the excess will be picked up by these trays here at the bottom that we used. And by design, fabric pots do dry out much faster than regular pots do. And that's because of that fabric allows a lot of air to pass through, as opposed to a solid either plastic or other material pot that keeps that moisture in.
But you know, I see a hot chick in hell, I'm moist.
What have I got?
Today is day 32 overall, and it is 6 days since we transplanted the plants into their final pots. They're definitely bounced back from the overwatering that I did when they were in their seedling pots. There's no other leaves that were browning and kind of soggy looking like these once were that I clipped off. I mean, the tips on that one is a little browning, but that's nothing to worry about really. The rest of the plant looks very healthy. It does look a little wet in here because I just finished watering. Good so far after the transplant and dialing back that watering. So everybody makes mistakes.
Anyway, my point is that you're gonna make mistakes in life, you know, and there's just no avoiding it.
You just gotta fine tune things, figure out what the issue is. Now, I want to point out, and I have pointed out in the past videos, is to always use Google Lens if you're having any particular issues with your plant. Google Lens is a great resource to use. Google Lens has a number of uses, but how I use it is by taking a photo of the issue that is showing on my plant. Then I use the visual matches option to look for similar pictures on the web. This normally points me in the right direction as I can match those related web pictures to my own issue. you may need to take a few different pics from various angles if you don't get a match right away. But once you find a match, the photo can either be linked to a blog post or any other web resource that posted the picture. And from there you can diagnose what the issue is and take action.
What have I got?
So today is day 34. I think it's 2 or 3 days since our last update. I looked at the calendar, definitely want to give some liquid fertilizer to the plants. And today we're going to be doing Dr. Earth. This one is a 111, just an all-purpose liquid fertilizer. Now again, always go off of the directions. Never try and double dose, triple dose your plants because you will overdo it. So it's calling for 4 tablespoons per gallon of water. And for this, you just want to go slow. Even though we pre-moisten the soil, we still can have some runoff. So I try and evenly distribute it around the plant. Yep, that is the update for now.
What have I got?
Today is day 37 and we're having an issue. So we come in closer here, you can see these spots. What it looks like initially, I've had this before on my outdoor plants and it looks like it's Septoria leaf spot. Now it also does look like a calcium deficiency. Septoria leaf spot and calcium deficiency look very similar. But the thing that's making me believe that it's Septoria and not a calcium deficiency is because this plant here has no signs of it. That's what's bringing me back to it being Septoria. If it was a calcium deficiency, this plant would also be experiencing the same, since they both have the same soil mix, the same amendments, and the same feeding schedule. Now, one thing that we can do to mitigate this is to take the leaves off that are affected, which is mainly this one and this one here. You can see there's just a speckle on this one right there. Temporarily, what I'm going to do to try and prevent it is I've already dialed back on the humidity, as high humidity can contribute to the development and spread of Septoria. And I'm also going to chop these leaves off. Definitely don't want to spread things around, so I'm just going to use some rubber gloves, because if I end up touching that one with some dirty hands, it could spread easily to my other plant, which I don't want. And so for now, I got some clean pruners. So that does look like that is the only leaves that were really affected. Gonna spray these with some peroxide, and I just put a little spray nozzle on it. I'm just gonna let that air dry. By taking this quick measure, hopefully it stops the spread. I'm gonna keep a close eye on things. If I do see more development on my plant, then I'm definitely gonna use a neem spray, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Definitely don't want to put this into your compost heap, basically anywhere near where you will have some plants in the future, because Septoria can overwinter in the soil, which basically means it can live dormant for a long period of time.
What have I got?
Alright guys, so today is day 42. It's been 5 days since our last update with the Septoria, and so far I think we might have mitigated the situation. There is one little speck that you can see right there on that leaf, but this one so far looks okay. You know what? Oh no, I think I see some on this plant now. Shoot. Okay. Well, oh yeah, and then there's some on that bottom leaf. So with that being said, I think it's gonna be time for some neem oil. Fortunately, I thought things would not spread, but they definitely do look like they are spreading. So we're gonna add a mixture of some pure cold pressed neem oil and some Celsud's biodegradable soap. We got the neem, we have the salsas, we have a smaller container filled with water. This is just to be able to mix the neem and the salsas in the smaller container, be able to shake it up, and it kind of mixes it much better than it would in a larger container like this, which carries our half a gallon of water here. Half a gallon is going to call for 1 tablespoon of both the neem and the salsas. If you wanted to go a full gallon, it's just going to be 2 tablespoons per each of the ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and add my neem. Oh wow, no way. It feels like my neem is solidified. Oh wow, jeez, it's like a whole block in there. I didn't even realize it. I'm trying to shake it up. It is, I mean, it's kind of like a very thick pancake mix, but all right, it's kind of shaking through. All right, well, it did kind of liquefy a little bit, so take 1 tablespoon of our pancake mix, also known as neem oil.
Did you get enough pancakes, sweetie?
All right, do the same thing with the soap. And just mix it up. So now that we got it mixed up, we'll go ahead and just add it to our half a gallon. And there we go, we got our mixture. So this too, I'm also gonna keep constantly mixing. If you leave the mixture alone for too long, the oil and the water will separate. You're gonna wanna constantly keep this mixed up. You wanna get under and above the leaves. Basically every inch you want soaked. I'm gonna let this drip dry for a little bit and then bring out the next one. Alrighty, so they're nice and tucked in now. Leaves are still drying from the neem oil spray. Gonna be it for today.
What have I got?
So today is day 48 so far. The plants look good. The Septoria though is still present on some of the leaves, not every single leaf, but we might need to give it another spray. Either way, today gonna give some CalMag. This is a 200, but it does have a good amount of calcium and magnesium, along with some iron.
What have I got?
So today is day 53. So far the plant is definitely stretching in size. When it comes to the Septoria, it is still present on the plants. I'm gonna give it another round of some of that neem spray. I'm gonna take the plants out and do the exact same thing that I did previously. The last spray that we gave it, it was about 2 weeks ago, probably a little more than 2 weeks ago. I should have been spraying it every week, but you know how things go.
Well, you know how it is. I guess she's pretty cute once you clean all the shit off her.
So let's take these girls outside. So I was gonna mix up the neem oil, which we already did. However, on the directions it says, if oil thickens, place bottle in hot water. Didn't realize that. Just got a container and then ran some hot water and just let it kind of sit. You don't want the water to go into the oil, so obviously keep it in the bottle and then just sit the bottle in some water. I'm gonna heat it up one more time and just let that soften up and liquefy once more. So let the bottle sit in the water for another 5 to 10 minutes and you can clearly see now it's liquefied, as opposed to the last time when we gave the neem application. It was thick pancake mix, but now we actually got an oil, so it might not have applied to the plants as well since it was so thick. It might not have stuck onto the plants and actually try and remove that Septoria. So Hopefully this time this application will get rid of it. That was my mistake for, you know, not reading the directions.
First of all, men don't ask for directions.
Alrighty, so the plants are back in with doing the hot water method to re-liquefy that neem oil. Hopefully that does the trick and gets rid of the Septoria, and that will be it for today.
What have I got?
Alrighty guys, so today is day 60. They are definitely stretched out. The scrog netting I had to lift because this one was getting bent, and I wasn't ready to do any training yet, but today that is exactly what we're going to do. We're gonna go ahead and train these ladies into the scrog netting. The spread of the Septoria definitely looks like it's been maybe even stopped, hopefully. The tops of the plants definitely have no signs of Septoria. And we're gonna go ahead and take these ladies out one more time since they are not set up in the scrog, or at least this one's kind of breaking through. But I'll just go ahead and pull them out for the last time, spray them down really good and evenly, even take some of these lower leaves off and maybe some stems as well. All right, so these ladies drip dried for long enough. They're not dripping anymore, so gonna bring them in here. So once again, I am definitely late to training these plants. I'm gonna try and maneuver this scrog to get it to go through the canopy. And there's no right or wrong way of doing this, but again, keeping in mind the center of the light and the actual exposure to light. So for instance, this node here is kind of getting shaded out from this top leaf. However, I don't want to clip this leaf because that will decrease the amount of photosynthesis. This is like one of the larger leaves. What you can do with the scrog is try and push this one like away from that underlining shade from this leaf. And yeah, also too, you can think about like tucking this leaf underneath. So another thing to worry about is if the other plant will shade out, you know, potential bud sites. So before I had like around here, it was kind of touching. I kind of just twisted the plant just a little bit so that they're both not impeding. I mean, they can touch leaves, that's totally fine. But when, you know, one is completely blocking the other like that, that's what you don't want. You want these to all to get hit with light. Since we're on day 60, I'm going to flip to flower as well. I'm going to change the lights to a 12 hours on, 12 hours off schedule. This will spur the plants to start focusing on developing buds. It does take about a week or so to actually see pre-flowers develop after the flip. Now, I normally consider this day 1 of flower. However, some people will wait that 1 week period once they see the pre-flowers to count that as day 1. Whether you wait that 1 week period or not, you can take a look at your particular cultivar and check the breeder's recommendation for flowering time. Now this will give you an estimate as to how long from this point will your plants be ready to harvest. Now again, I say estimate because the true test to see whether your plants are ready to harvest is to check the trichomes, which we'll be doing that in the near future. Regardless, the flowering time should be no more than 2 to 3 weeks off, give or take, from the time you flip to flower to the recommended flowering period.
What have I got?
So today is day 8 of flower, day 69 overall. Plants are looking good. I think we might have stopped the spread of the Septoria. I don't see much of it. I mean, this one here, I don't even think this is Septoria, to be honest with you. Might just be some nutrient burn maybe. I'm not entirely sure, I gotta double check. But for the most part, I don't see any of the Septoria on either of the plants. It would be smart for me to do one more foliar spray with that Neem. But right now I don't have much time to do that. But I did want to give you guys an update, and being that we are on day 8, I am starting to see some of the pre-flowers there. Now this is a very early stage of the female flower development. Now here we have the stigmas, which are these white hair-like structure. A lot of people do refer to them as pistils. And if we were to follow the stigma or the pistils down, we would see a bract. And people also refer to this as a calyx. These two structures make up the female anatomy of the plant. If we were to isolate these two, it would look like this. The stigma clearly emerges from the bract, distinguishing female plants from their male counterparts. In a male plant, the stigma is absent. While the male plant possesses a structure resembling the bract, it instead contains pollen within. This key difference, the presence or absence of the stigma, serves as the defining characteristic between male and female plants. But yeah, that is the update for now, guys. Just gonna give them some water, and we're gonna call it a day.
What have I got?
All right, guys, I came out today and noticed my plants completely touching the light. As a result, they got burned here in this tip. Same thing for this one. This one's getting a little close, but you can see it's starting to yellow. All right, guys, so I realized that there was basically no more slack left on the ratchets.
Who is this ratchet ass bitch?
So what I had to do was basically get rid of these and actually zip tie them to the frame of the tent. And, you know, that gives them a good 7 to 8 inches. So hopefully with that, it'll be enough. It was my fault. I did not come in yesterday to check the plants, but you know, stuff happens. So for the most part, the rest of the plant is looking good. Same thing for this one. I caught this one just in time before it started actually rubbing up against the light, and it would have caused the same damage. But there's just some yellowing. That's just the name of the game, guys. Sometimes things get away from you, you know, mistakes are made.
Mistakes have been made and accidents are natural, right?
Hopefully this gives some insight for someone out there. Hopefully you don't fall into the same mistake that I did. So that'll be it for today's update.
What have I got?
So today is day 21 of flower, day 82 overall. It's been exactly 1 week since we found the light burn. It does look like the plant is recuperating. Granted, there are some burnt leaves that will not be coming back, but that is okay for the most part. The growth tip looks like it's recuperated, and what I mean by growth tip is the actual bud site, so that is good. Same thing for this one. This one was a little yellow. I mean, it's still kind of yellow, but no burnt tips on this one. As I mentioned, we're in week 3 of flower. This particular cultivar recommends a flowering time between 50 and 60 days. So we're right around almost halfway there. Now this plant, which didn't have much issues, is now starting to yellow, but yeah, there's some real discoloration in the leaves. And these spots, I want to say it's still the Septoria. Yeah, there's not much that I'm gonna do with the Septoria. We're already into flower. You can see the bud development. There's some leaves in here that can definitely be just plucked off. Now this potentially and kind of does look like a potassium deficiency. Yeah, from the tips being burned and it kind of progressively starting to get yellow, I think it might be a potassium deficiency. I'm hoping that's what it is. Hoping it's not any nutrient lockouts. The last fertilizer feed that I gave was this more bloom. This was given on day 73 or day 12 of flower. So it's been about like 9 days since I gave this more bloom, and it says to mix a teaspoon per quart every 10 to 14 days. I definitely don't want to overfeed. I'm gonna take precaution and just actually go off of the recommendation. So I'm gonna just water with some water today. In 2 more days I'll go ahead and give another more bloom. I've noticed that, yeah, the plants are done stretching out, so that is the max that we will get. So yeah, that is the update for now.
What have I got?
Like 2 days since our last update, and I want to give it this more bloom. Can burn your plants. I was give it a half dose of this more bloom to each of my plants.
Hey! Hey! Good job, buddy! He's peeing on his own. Keep it flowing, that's it!
What have I got?
We are on day 33 of flower, day 94 overall. Here's just a shot. There are definitely some yellowing of some leaves. Leaves here that are dead. I'm just gonna plop these right off. Probably gonna clean some of these older dead leaves off. This is kind of just natural. It's like a natural progression. The plant is using up its own resources. We're going to be giving the half strength again of the more bloom. It's been 10 days exactly since our last feed, so it's going to give another half strength of this, and then just again just take some of these leaves off. Now if you guys were like 1 to 2 weeks into flower and your plant started to look like this, then you know there's some cause for concern. But again, it is the last month, so we're just gonna let it ride out. I'm gonna give the more bloom. This is just the update for now.
What have I got?
All right, ladies and gents, today is day 58 of flower, day 119 overall, and today we're gonna harvest.
Got blunt?
Got weed?
I want to give you guys a quick look at what the burnt tops look like. But either way, let's go ahead and check the trichomes. I've already checked the trichomes off camera, but I wanted to show you how to do it properly. First, you'll need to find a cola and use either a jeweler's loupe or any other magnification tool with good clarity. Earlier in the video, we discussed stigma and bracts. These two structures form a cola along with the leaves and other plant material. The correct place to inspect trichomes is directly on a bract. While trichomes can also be found on other parts of the plant, such as sugar leaves and even sometimes on stems, the most accurate location for assessment is the bract. The bract can be difficult to locate since leaves and bracts appear quite similar under a microscope. To make identification easier, I like to find a pair of stigma as they are highly distinguishable and trace them down to the bract, since the stigma always emerges from the bract. Now that we've isolated the bract, we can assess the percentage of clear, cloudy, and amber trichomes present. While a balance mixed of all three is good, a higher portion of cloudy and amber trichomes is ideal, as these indicate greater maturity. Continue checking the trichomes on different bracts within the same cola, then move on to other colas across the rest of the plant to get a comprehensive view. Once you have a clear visual representation, you can compare it with the breeder's flowering time recommendation to determine the plant's ripeness and whether it's ready for harvest. We're gonna go ahead and harvest and turn the grow tent into a dry tent and just hang them within the tent. And then for the drying, I'm gonna try and keep the tent between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And the humidity is gonna be roughly between 40 and 55%. So with that being said, let's go ahead and set this dry tent up. Alrighty, we got the dry tent all set up now. We have the fan. As a matter of fact, I forgot to plug in the fan. So I got this little dial timer. Every 30 minutes, turns off and on. That's for that fan here. As right now, it's not on, but it will be indirectly blowing underneath. Just get some circulation. And it is on low settings, so it won't be a whirlwind in here or anything like that. I did end up setting up the humidifier, and the heater is still on because it is still getting kind of chilly at night. We're just gonna go ahead and seal up the tent, and that is it for now.
What have I got?
All right, guys, so it's been a full 2 weeks since we harvested and started the drying process. How we check is we're gonna check any of the non-main stems, branches, and we're just gonna go ahead and bend it, and there should be a nice crack. There we go. So it's a nice crack, and the stem is still holding on to. That's what we want. If you over dry it, it'll be like a clear break right off, but this one is still holding on. So yeah, it's definitely ready to harvest. And if the plant still needed more time to dry, the stems would still be bendable with no clear snap. All that's left now is to trim your harvest. You can get as detailed as you would like with it, removing as much non-sugar leaves and stems. I wanted to show you this. This is the cola. Got light burn. You can see the tip is fairly yellow, but the bottom is still good. So about like right to the tip. As I mentioned, just took those light burn tip off. Kind of went a little further down just to clean it up. And that concludes our seed to harvest video. Now basically all that's left to do is to cure your cannabis, and that's just burping your jars daily, which is basically removing the lid for about 10 to 15 minutes, letting that jar air out, and then basically closing it back up. And you do that for about 1 to 2 weeks. And that's just to allow for that any excess moisture that builds up in that jar, just to release it and give us that cannabis some fresh air. Now for those who are curious, I ended up getting about 2.5 ounces off of that one harvest. Now our next seed to harvest video is going to be an outdoor grow, and we're going to be growing some Blue Dream. So if you guys want to check that out, don't forget to hit the subscribe icon right below me. And if you want to see more content like this, you can click on any of the icons to the side of me. This is Rudy with Guevara Garden signing off and letting you know you won't get a harvest if you don't sow seeds.